readings and possibly interview. I'm Linda Mowry with Jane Stories Press Foundation. We are in our 21st year of supporting women writers. One of our members, Susan Winstead, has been published by Mewswrite, the organization that Trina, Sotera, and Michelle Duster have created, where they've published these anthologies. Today we're talking about impact, personal portraits of activism. So because Susan mentioned that she'd been published in these books, of course I bought them and was very pleased with what I got throughout. And so our current president encouraged us at Jane Stories to start doing a little more outreach and getting some things posted online. And I rashly volunteered because I had quite recently read this book. I volunteered to host a little interview and reading, and then I messed up the whole recording the first time we did it. So a number of things went wrong that day, and I am so grateful that you are both able to get on the Zoom meeting with me today. So we're going to start with a brief reading from Jennifer Brown Banks. She writes poetry, columns. I think you'll probably learn a little bit more about her as she reads. Here are just a couple of the places she's been published: Today's Black Woman magazine, Being Single, Chicago Sun-Times, and Final Call. I forgot to write down the name of your piece. I have it in my notes, but it's going to take me a second to find it.
Excuse me, Linda, looks like Michelle's trying to get in.
Oh, thank you.
She's having a problem getting in. Said something about the links. I just saw it pop up on the chat or something, or the email or something, but she's having a problem getting in. Looks like, is that Trina?
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. There's Michelle.
Oh boy. Welcome, Mewswrite people. I apologize for missing your waiting room thing. I think we better start all over. So you didn't hear any of my gibberish before I just let you join, right?
I just joined.
Okay.
It looks like Trina's connected.
Yes. Okay, so the hope is that somebody will edit out all my rambling before I was alerted to the fact that you needed to be admitted to this meeting. Thank you so much for coming. I was just apologizing for making so many mistakes on the last one, and I'm really pleased that you're willing to join me again. And I have the recording going, so we'll try one more time. I'm Linda Mowry with Jane Stories Press Foundation, and I am very pleased to welcome the editors and two of the contributors to the anthology Impact. Michelle Duster and Trina Sotera are the editors of this book. They have put a fabulous collection together, and let's just take a couple of minutes to talk to them about the anthology in general, and then we'll go to Jennifer Banks and Sandra Hall to hear them read from their pieces which appear in the anthology. Michelle, what prompted you to look at personal portraits of activism?
Well, one of the things that Trina and I that sort of resonated with us during the last presidential administration, was just the a lot of social unrest and a lot of sort of vitriol that was affecting people, And we wanted to, capture people's stories on how they were making decisions to be engaged in their community in order to impact and make an effect on change in ways that they were able to. And we just thought that would be an inspiring story for people to read, an inspiring collection for people to read. Because a lot of people, were saying like, what can we do to help? What can we do to make a difference? And a lot of people feel that doing something what they would consider small isn't impressive or isn't big enough for what they would like to do. And we felt that it's important for all of the different ways that people contribute to making a change are important, and they need to be chronicled, they need to be documented, and voices need to be heard, because too many times this type of stories are not captured by big publishers. And so Trina can talk a little bit more about that as far as like why we as Muse write, what the gaps that we saw in the publishing world and why we felt this was important for us to do.
I
Yes.
totally agree that these are important voices to capture, and I think you've done a great job of it. So go ahead, Trina.
Yeah, no, I think that's something to discuss is we were curious as to why large publishers were only publishing big name activists or celebrity activists versus those of us who have been doing the work that's lifelong, right? And those of us who have been doing the work behind the scenes. We have teacher activists in the book, we have environmental activists, we have healthcare activists, we have judicial activists, medical activists. So we have a lot of people who have witnessed injustices throughout their lives and chronicled, the injustices, and have been doing that very difficult work, the unpaid work, the work that drains your savings and your time and your energy. And so we chose to focus on those individuals versus those big name celebrity activists. Not that there's anything, we celebrate them as well, right? Like we stand on their shoulders. However, it's important to look at, those around us, right, who have not been published because of their work. So, or have not had their work yet published, particularly associated with activism and what they've been doing with activism. So that was really the goal of this book and why we chose to publish these pieces.
Thank you for doing all that. Just putting together so many different stories is a great accomplishment. And I wondered if you'd both like to say just a little bit about going through the submissions and how you worked together to choose what made it into the anthology.
Well, I mean, we did a call for submissions. And so we just put together like a description of the vision of the book and what type of work we were looking for, and basically, sent it out through listservs. We have a Facebook page, we sent it out on a Facebook page, and there are also some other pages on Facebook that are specific to authors and activists, and so we posted in different places. And so we didn't know what we were going to get. We opened it up to anybody who wanted to contribute, as well as this is our second book, and so we definitely let the contributors from the first book know that we were in the process of creating a second book, and so we let them know about the book as well, and they could, inform their networks about it as well. So we were open. We didn't specifically tap into any particular individual people. We wanted it to be open to people selecting themselves. And we got an enormous number of contributions. And so enormous meaning probably 300 or 400.
Yeah.
So we kind of devised a little system between us to sort of divide them in half, and then each one of us look at each compilation first, and then the other, so then we would cross, and then we kind of switched based on the initial response from the first person who looked at it. And so we created a elaborate spreadsheet and wrote comments and about each piece and summarized it, and sort of gave our opinion on if we felt it was meeting the vision of the piece or not, of the overall project or not. And once we narrowed things down, then it came down to kind of looking at categories of the pieces, and we started to see a pattern as far as topics that people were addressing. And then we eliminated duplication, because there were some people that wrote about the same thing. And so we kind of just continued narrowing it down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and just going off of that, I think that this second project, working with Michelle, was just such a joy, because I know what she is, what her fabulous talents are, which are like the big macro, edits, like that big picture stuff. And then I'm more of like the micro editor, like looking for like patterns in word usage and the way that the pieces connect based on lines, like, and so we're just a great team. We kind of feed off of each other, where Michelle's like, did you notice this larger thing? And I was always so focused in on the smaller thing. And then I'm like, did you notice this? And she's like, no, because I was looking at the bigger piece and the way it laid on the page. And so it's, we're very lucky in that way to have that type of business partnership that, we feed off each other's strengths. So there's one point also I wanted to add, which is when we curate or curated a collection of work about activism, it did play a big toll on us on our mental health, because receiving 300 to 400 submissions where people were upset, right, and were complaining and were sharing their innermost fears about society, that took a huge emotional toll on me. I took 2 days to go through submissions. I think it was like 2 or 3 days. And at the end of the second day, I remember I just had to like shut down from everything, because I felt the weight, kind of the world on my shoulders, where everyone was just saying, this is wrong, and this is wrong, and this is wrong. And I think that's where Michelle and I came together and said, we are only taking pieces where somebody did say, yes, this is wrong, but this is what I did to fix it, right? That's activism. Activism is not just complaining. It's getting out and doing that hard work, as I mentioned, losing money and time and energy to make change. So that was, the goal, but it was also emotionally draining.
Well, I'm sorry you had to go through it, but we are glad that you did, because your approach worked very well. And now I would like to hear from the authors. First,
we lost Jennifer. Hopefully she'll come back on.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, well, I will watch for that. But we do have Sandra Hall with us. Sandy is the CEO of Memory Lane Publishers. She's a writer, a social worker, and as you will hear in her reading, a restorative justice practitioner. She's been an educator and working for justice for many, many years, and is a member of the Chicago Association of Black Workers, and has a couple of books that you might want to check out. Fathers Are Special Too, and Celebrating Daddy and Them. So, Sandy, please read to us from your essay in Impact.
Good morning or good afternoon. Thank you, Linda. This is how restorative justice, RJ, is defined on the Community Youth Justice Institute's website. Restorative justice is a theory of justice that emphasizes repairing the harm caused by crime and conflict. It places the decisions in the hands of those who have been most affected by a wrongdoing and gives equal concern to the victim, the offender, and the surrounding community. Restorative responses to crime and conflict, such as peacemaking circles, are designed to repair the harm, heal broken relationships, and address the underlying reasons for the offense. Restorative justice emphasizes the importance of both individual and collective accountability. Individuals are responsible for choices they make, resulting in harm to others, but collectives at the neighborhood, city, county, state, and national level are responsible for the social conditions which increase the likelihood of crime. Crime and conflict generate opportunities to build community and increase grassroots power when restorative practices are employed. A few months after completing the 4-day RJ training, I joined the RJ community at my church in Chicago. And from there, I was able to participate in RJ work in my church, the church-wide community, and my community at large. I have been able to use those skills in schools, churches, private and not-for-profits, and community-based organizations with children, adults, seniors, male, female, and co-ed groups alike. As a trained social worker, educator, and consultant, I have been an advocate for hundreds of children and families for over 40 years. Sometimes the outcries were from my colleagues and myself, directed toward the injustices within the various systems in which I was employed. I have raised my voice and spoken out oftentimes when it wasn't popular, was not appreciated by the powers that be, and have been labeled a troublemaker. As a single parent, I have had to raise my hand, take on responsibilities I didn't necessarily want to do, to advocate for myself and my child, to ensure that we gained access to, didn't get excluded from, skipped over, and or cut out of programs or whatever was going on in our community. As a social worker, having worked in a variety of settings, which included mental health, health care, early child development, school age programs, and child welfare, I believe I was called and trained to speak out and to speak up for myself, to agitate situations in general when I didn't fit the box or when the business as usual protocol didn't work for me. Sometimes I had to leave a system, quit a job in order to be a more meaningful advocate from outside of that system. Interestingly enough, my mom taught me by example to speak up for myself. I vividly recall my mother arguing with the store clerk if they shortchanged her a nickel or even 2 pennies, making sure that her opinion was considered when my dad or other with my dad or other adults. What was interesting, though, is that when I mirrored what I was learning, it wasn't always fondly received. At 5, I protested the idea of being told that I would be wearing the same outfit for Easter as my 3 sisters, 2 older and 1 who was younger. At least my request was to get me a dress in a different color. Another example was being told in 8th grade that I was expected to attend the same high school as my 4 older siblings. I begged, did a little research, and requested to attend a school not too far away from our home. My biggest issue was simply the fact that all my siblings had previously attended that school. In both of those situations, after a short time, my parents conceded. A light blue dress instead of the green dress that my siblings had purchased, that my parents had purchased for them, I got to have a light green dress. And I was able to attend the high school of my choice. Since November of 2018, I have been involved in attending a monthly visit to a downstate prison in Illinois. And after a few visits, I noticed how impersonal the space felt. And I thought about adding just some bright colors to this big gymnasium would enhance the visiting experience for incarcerated moms, their children, guardians, and other family members. And so my current project prior to the pandemic was advocating about the whole idea involved infusing brightly colored walls to enhance that monthly visiting experience in this multi-purpose gymnasium. As we know, incarceration separates children from their parents and creates a huge large for all families, for all parties that are involved. So in this regular visiting room, moms and their families share snacks and other foods from vending machines, which they have to pay for, share close space with other moms who are incarcerated and their family members. And most importantly, they are able to touch and hug loved ones, but only sparingly. So while visits in the gymnasium with our program allow family members to touch, receive, and give hugs, play table games, share a meal together prepared by the facility, read stories together, etc., it still was impersonal. You know, it was less guarded for sure, but it was this big and impersonal, non-welcoming, not well insulated, nor air conditioned, poor lighting, dingy tan, brick walls, and white walls. I envisioned an infusion of bright colored walls to start the creation of a more welcoming space. Next, I envision creating smaller, more intimate areas within that space and or identifying possibly utilizing other spaces within that correctional facility for moms with smaller children to be able to talk privately, read stories, and just be together. So initially, my vision was not well received by my supervisors or the people at the facility. So, you know, with history and experience of doing a lot of volunteer work, I just envisioned that I could pick up a pack up pictures and murals, and engage in a group of families within the state. So then I began to identify possible use of other space within the facility, and I started talking to the internists about being involved in this project and to interior decorating. And so
Sandy, we're losing some
working
of your...
with the incarcerated moms and their family members have begun to, oh, I'm sorry, I guess I moved. But anyway, the moms have got excited about this project. Their family members are excited about donating money. And I had a vision of completing this project by December of 20. Sorry, guys, I'm in my car so you can hear stuff. But unfortunately, since March of last year, due to the pandemic, involved with identifying the colors that them to make commitments to financially support this process. And what's very interesting, something that I was totally unexpected, is that there was a whole process this past year of working with our Attorney General, our Lieutenant Governor, in Illinois, Juliana Stratton, worked for a year to identify a record huge recommendations that came out of that is not only the whole notion about they have spaces should be a lot more child friendly than they are currently. And so now my supervisors and other people are saying, what a wonderful idea. So it hasn't happened yet because of the pandemic, but there's a lot of foot traffic that has happened. There's a lot of conversations that are being held around how important the difference.
Well, congratulations on all you've accomplished, and good luck with the rest
of children's self-esteem. Thank you, and I thank Michelle and Trina for including me. Thank you.
I think we're
Thank you,
having,
Sandy.
Thank you, Michelle and Trina, for allowing me to be a part of this project.
well, as I said, congratulations. I'm afraid we're having a little bit of audio trouble, but we'll see how it turns out. We only have a few minutes left before this session runs out. So I'm going to ask Jennifer to go ahead and read. And if we get kicked off, we will open another meeting right away. Again, I apologize for my technological issues, but I'm looking forward to hearing from Jennifer Banks, who has written The Fight Against Stereotypes as part of, is the piece that appears in Impact. She's done lots of other writing and has I'm just going to turn this over to Jennifer.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity today. Can you hear me okay? You can? Okay, I must be. Okay, can you hear me okay? Okay, great. It's a pleasure to be here today, and I apologize for my technological difficulties as well. This is only the second time that I've actually participated in a Zoom forum, so fingers crossed here. The title to my essay is The Fight Against Stereotypes. I once heard a comedian say, if you want to hide your valuables from a Black person, tuck them between the pages of a book. Though his joke held great hilarity for some, I wasn't laughing. This plaguing stereotype continues to perpetuate the common myth that Black folks don't read, that we don't appreciate literature, culture, and the arts. That is, with the exception of dancing and Soul Train, of course. Of all the lies and stinking thinking involving people of color, this was my Achilles heel. Perhaps because I have always been an avid reader. My love affair with reading and writing began early. Growing up, my siblings and I had more books than toys. Our home was filled with picture books, medical journals, autobiographies and self-help bestsellers, hardcovers, paperbacks, big and small, in a rainbow of colors. My mom constantly drilled in us the importance of education and how our ancestors died for the right for us to enjoy this privilege, and I never forgot that. As the years evolved, I eventually became a reader, writer, award-winning poet, and arts enthusiast. In 1994, I decided to change the literary landscape and perception of Black people by founding and organizing my own community-based arts organization in Chicago. Poets United to Advance the Arts was born. A local librarian for whom we auditioned agreed to provide a forum for us once a month. Our mission, to increase arts awareness, promote advocacy, self-publish our own literature, and offer mutual support to kindred spirits. Our small but very active group even defied familiar stereotypes. A curvaceous, cute female cop, a 6'4" military veteran who was a gentle giant, an introvert who was a dynamic spoken word performer, and others with controversial views. Our colors, Black and white. Fast forward, in June 2019, we celebrated 25 years of performing, publishing, and promoting the arts at universities, churches, galleries, private events. We have performed before audiences of all groups, racial backgrounds, interests, and industries. I was even honored at a banquet by Brainerd Community Development for my work. When most people think of activism, they think of courageous acts like boycotts in Alabama or the militant moves of the Black Panthers in the 60s. But sometimes a nudge can be just as effective as a movement. Sometimes activism can simply be a raising of consciousness, a paradigm shift, or using one's platform to speak out against injustices. Though I'll never qualify for a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, I'm proud that I've used my divine gifts for good. Words are an important legacy. To quote John F. Kennedy, one person can make a difference. and everyone should try. Thank you so much.
Thank you. That was just an excerpt from her piece. So be sure to get the book and read the whole thing. Impact is available from musewrite.com, MUSEWRITE. Thanks again, everybody, for joining us. And I hope to be posting the link for this on YouTube soon.
Thank you so much for having us.
Have a great weekend. Thank you.
Thank you to the wonderful readers.
Thank you.
and
Thank you,
writers.
ladies.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Michelle and
Bye-bye.
Trina again, and thank you, Linda.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you
you,
all for
everyone.
all the contributions.